Welcome back to the Academy. We have successfully audited the sovereignty of the Kuva new core and dismantled the mechanical truth behind the Tenet Quanta. Today, we turn our lanes towards the Tenet Glaxion. This is a weapon that demands precision. It isn't just about the raw output, it's about understanding the internal logic of the status distribution. We aren't here for the meta-slop. We are here to deconstruct another blank canvas. Let's open the engine and see if this beam-based powerhouse earns its S tier in the arsenal. Asking why I have selected magnetic as the Progenitor Anchor for the Tenet Glaxion. And the current engine, magnetic has transcended its niche role to become a foundational pillar for shield gating mitigation and higher level armor shredding. By baking magnetic directly into the weapon's core, I'm freeing up mod slots that would have otherwise be wasted on elemental combinations. This allows for a vastly more flexible modular build that adapts to the shifting defenses of Steel Path. This isn't just a damage choice, it is a structural efficiency choice. To maintain the rigorous standards of the Academy, we conduct our control testing with a naked, unmodded Loki and the Simulacrum. By stripping away Warframe abilities, arcanes, and external statistics, we isolate the weapon's true performance. We are looking at the inherent lethality. If the Glaxion can sustain pressure in high steel path targets in its rawest form, we know the foundation is sound. Our first configuration, corrosive and magnetic. This is the primary shredder setup. By layering corrosive onto our base magnetic anchor, we create a binary system that handles both grenadier plating and shielding targets simultaneously. It is efficient, it is consistent, and it provides a clean, predictable damage profile that remains effective regardless of the mission density. Now, something that I'll also add is that we are running Photon Overcharge. It's Augment mod. It's not always needed, it just gives an extra crit damage. And then finally we have Shivering Contagion. Why? Because we want to have crowd control, and since the base element that's built into the Tenet Glaxion is cold, we're triggering this as well, alongside corrosive and magnetic. It is effectively superior in terms of crowd control and armor shredding. I'm gonna show you how this weapon performs against level 235 enemies that are called the Exogoxat officers, with the Steel Path modifier on as well. And if you're wondering why specifically these enemies, it's because they simulate how level cap enemies are in terms of armor and health. And without further ado, let me show you how it performs. No buffs whatsoever, this is how it performs. As you can see, we're crowd controlling all of them. Now admittedly, it won't do as good, because why? Because we haven't stacked up on our galvanized mods. Once we get the first kill, things get crazy. And since we're running primary crux as well, we're getting ammo efficiency and a bunch of status. Now admittedly, if you would have paired it up with other Warframes that would have given you buffs like Roar, Nourish, the whole gimmick, then of course it will obviously do way more damage, but on its own merit, it's not bad. It is honestly not bad. Um, it is very, very strong. After we get a couple of kills, you soon realize that it does stack up significantly. You can just see the armor and health just shredding away. It's amazing. Configuration 2. Blast and Magnetic. This is our area of effect architect. We are leveraging the synergy between two elements to create a massive kinetic feedback loop. This build is about crowd control and crowd architecting. It keeps the field in a state of permanent disruption, allowing us to manage the enemy's behavior while keeping our damage uptime at the maximum threshold. Now, another nice synergy to consider or keep in mind that if you use something like Zara's Whisper, that the blast will essentially double dip with the bubble effect, and since we have Prime Firestorm, which will increase the blast range, it gets very, very nuts. And of course, we're running Primary Crux because it's an underrated arcane, and who doesn't like extra status effects and ammo efficiency? Without further ado, this is how it performs. Alright, so I've spawned on the enemies, no buffs whatsoever, and let's get started with the first few. As you can see, it doesn't do direct damage initially, but what you will realize is it's crowd controlling them, it's spreading them out because of the blast procs. Now this build is not meant to do a bunch of damage like a DOT, it's made for crowd controlling whilst having fun. Now we move into the final tier, the third build, which is going to be a primary debilitate setup. This is our ultimate level cap engine, but we aren't testing this on into vacuum in the Simulacrum. Instead, we're going to be heading into a steel path disruption run with a special guest for today's video. And welcome, Carver Reed, VT. We'll be stress testing the Glaxion status engine against high level Demolist side by side with his Phantasma Prime, and we are both running Primary Debilitate, but we have taken different elemental paths to reach the same conclusion. The ultimate expression of the blank canvas theory. Now, if you're curious to know what I'll be running my Revenant. As I've said multiple times before, it's not about skill issue, it's about stress testing the weapon. So yeah, this is the build that I'll be running with my Revenant. I'll be running a raw setup, and I have expertise there just for in case something bad happens. As I've said, I've raw on his 4th, and then I have my Tenet Glaxion that I've shown. Here's the build for Tenet Glaxion one more time. And then I have Glaive Prime as my way of clearing out mobs. Here's the build that I'm running. If you're curious why I'm not using Prime Pressure Point or Condition Overload, it's because Killing Blow gives me base damage already, believe it or not. And running them will be diminishing returns. This is a pure damaging build. And then finally, for my companion, I'll be running my Nautilus Prime. This is the build that I'll be running. We have Guardian, Gordon, Manifold, Contagious. This just basically helps me spread damage and keep up my buffs at all time. I'll be running a corrosive heat setup on my companion's weapon. This is the build that I'm running, if you're curious then what it is. And since I'm running corrosive and heat, for my epitaph, I'll be running viral in a heat instead. And then finally, another tip that I will give you for whenever you want to keep up your combos and whatever have you. Run on your arc gun, your heavy weapon, both primary and secondary dexterity arcanes, so that you can get extra combo duration, but also get base damage for both secondary and primary, so that if you don't initially get your buffs up with Tenet Glaxion, in my case, then I will have some sort of base damage to start with, so that I don't struggle in the main line. And then I have a luxury 12 volt shards, 2 of which are purple for that equilibrium effect, and then I have 2 red ones, one for, well, both are ability strength, and then I have 1 yellow for casting speed. Alrighty folks, this is the level cap run. As you can see, I didn't have any issues killing all these normal enemies, and here's me going to take down a level cap demo list. Oh, my friend actually, Carver Reed, he was the one that took down the first level cap demo. Very proud of him. You can see the little ticks on the screen right there. I was helping him a little bit. There we go. And then here's just me demonstrating how it performs against normal level cap enemies. Very fun. I honestly didn't have much issues. The one thing that I'll probably change in the future is taking out Shivering Contagion for maybe a faction mod. But I know a lot of people don't like them, myself included, so it's more of a personal choice, but regardless, I didn't struggle, not even a little bit. As you can see, here's me taking down the demo on my own, there around the corner. Now, admittedly, I would admit this, that my Progenitor isn't maxed. If my Progenitor was maxed, I would have maybe done more damage in general. But overall, I was very satisfied. I didn't struggle. I was taking down these demo lists one by one without any issues. One thing that I will say that it's a little bit difficult to keep up with Aptitude and Galvanized mods, but if you get the first few kills, you know, it's just easy, honestly. And as you can see, there's the DOTs on the demo list, and just here's just an example of how my operator does against level cap enemies as well, with the book from Xenoric. As you can see, kills enemies without any troubles. And then of course I did cheat a little bit by one-shotting them with Reeve from Revenant, and here's me one-shotting them, the Acolyte, with my melee. And then again, overall it was a fun setup. I would highly suggest you guys go check out Carver Reed. I really appreciate this run with him. Very fun indeed. That concludes today's audit. This run with Carver Reed VT was more than just a demonstration. It was a perfect example of why mastery of mechanics beats meta every single time. I want to thank Carver for his expertise and for collaborating with the Academy to push these systems to their very limits. If you want to understand the full architecture of his setup or watch his perspective on this run, his channel is linked in the description down below. Go see how he built his Phantasma Prime and learn from his approach. Join the Discord, grab your blueprints, and most importantly, stay safe.